So this generalized principle is one of the largest, and I would also say most influential principles that has changed the course of my life and the course of many other people's lives as well. Okay, so I would encourage you on this one to get a pen and paper out, take some notes as you go along, and really deep dive on this one. So this talks about which world do you live in. Now, this is a behavioural flip chart. So I want you to get the context here that this is your world, right? This is the context of it. And in the equator, we've got the equator here, and then we've got north of the equator and south of the equator. Please don't get bogged down. If you happen to live south of the equator on the real world, on the globe, just ignore that. It doesn't mean if you're in the southern hemisphere, this is how you play. That's not how it is. This is a theoretical example, okay? So let me take you through it. So now in this example, you can't be living on the equator. You're either north or south of it, right? So let me go through some of the behaviours for if we choose to live south of the equator, right? So the very first one is blame, right? So if you think about it, I'll ask you the question, do you use blame and who do you blame, right? Now, I know certainly during COVID times where I was from, there was a lot of blame going on between governments, between states, But even in life, think about who do we blame in business, right? We blame suppliers, we can blame customers, we can blame team members, we can blame each other, we can blame who? Ourselves even. I like doing that little activity. Like, blame is when we go and point at somebody. So it's like, if I point, it's their fault. There's one finger pointing at them and three fingers pointing back at me, interestingly enough. So think about blame. That's one of the behaviours for if we go and play down south. Next one, excuses, right? Where we go and make excuses for things. I've said it many times. What do you think the number one excuse is for adults on the planet? I just didn't have enough time. We run out of time. That's it. So I want to put that one to bed. We all have the same, it is science. We all have the same amount of time. Every single person on the planet has it. It is a constant. So please, we can't ever use that as an excuse. I don't have enough time, because we've all got the same amount. It's about how well we utilize our time, right? And the way that we do that. So please, let's park that one if that's one that you use. But it's very interesting on this is, the question to ask is, why do people make excuses, right? And if you think about it, if someone turns up late for a meeting, right? Or if you turn up late for a meeting, what does it sound like when they walk into the room? Hey, Wade, sorry I'm late. The traffic was bad, or right? And we feel obliged to go and offer an excuse. And it's like, why do we do that, right? And ultimately, if you think about the context, most times it's because I don't want you to think badly of me. It's not my fault. It is something else that happened, so I've got to go and say it, right? When the reality is, do you really, in that example, do I really care why somebody was late normally? Yes or no? No, I don't. It's like you've just stolen 10 seconds of my life that I can't get back again. What do I actually care about? What are you going to do to never be late again? That's more what I care about, right? So here's another behaviour down here, excuses, right? Now, if I said to you, which one of these do you use most, blame or excuses, which is you go to, if you're sitting there going, I don't do either of them, you're in the last category, which is denial, right? So I don't do any of that stuff, Wade. That doesn't happen to me. It's like, it wasn't my fault. I know nothing about it. That's the whole denial piece. So there's all these behaviours that can exist down here south of the equator, right? Now, if I go the opposite of that and I go, let's go north of the equator. So it's things like ownership, where I, steering my own ship. I'm accountable for my actions, for my outcomes. I'm responsible for these things. So these are all above the equator type of behaviours as we go. And We can put heaps more on here, right? There's other ones like, being vague versus being very, very clear on it. Another word, justification is another great word to put down here. Reasons is another great word to put down here. Now, by the way, let me ask you a really key question. So be honing in on, where is it that you play the game, right? Which world do you live in? But also hone in on, where does your business play, right? What's the culture of your business? Like if this was not you, if this was now your business, where does your business play? Does it play here or does it play here? What's the culture, right? Now, my question to you is, where do you think is the best place to live? North of the equator or south of the equator, right? Now, my illusion is most people are going to say to me, north of the equator, right? Now, another way to also think about this is south of the equator, if this is how we play the game, this is all about, it's when we focus on problems, right? This is a problem-focused mindset versus north of the equator is where we go and focus on solutions. Another way to look at it, south of the equator, this behaviour is all about what happened in the past, right? These behaviours up here are all about what are we going to go and do in the future. I don't care why you're late. Don't give me that. I want to know, what are you going to do to never be late again? It's future pacing. My illusion on this one is that when I first meet business, this is not always the case. This is a generalized comment. So, but the majority of businesses I see, where do you think they spend their time having discussion mostly? Down here, right? That 70% of their time they spent down here and 30% up here. And it's when we switch that and we start doing more solution-based, future-solving work that we start getting better results, right? Now, I'll give you one other little piece on this particular principle. There is a question that I could ask you or ask anybody to force you to go south of the equator. All right, have a think what that question actually is. What could I ask you to force you to go south of the equator? So the question is this. The question is, why? So if you get an outcome and I say to you, hey, John, why did you do that? Hey, Mary, why did you do that? I actually force you to blame something, give me an excuse, or go, I have no idea, it's not me. It forces people below the line. So please be very careful on this one. If you're in a management leadership position, or if you've got team members dealing with public, etc., really it's anybody dealing with any other human, using that question, why did that happen, right? Because clearly I don't want to put people below the line. Why is very emotional. So the part that I do want to do is sometimes we definitely need to find out if there was a breakdown in a system or a breakdown in a process. So the better way to ask the question is, what happened? Just tell me what happened. It's logical, keeps the emotion out of it. And then great, now how are we going to go off and fix it, right? So hugely, hugely important principle. Now I want to finish on one little context around this. So when I grew up, right, with my family, a loving family, had a beautiful childhood and everything. But one thing I will say is, one part of my parents is they loved to play the south of the equator game. You know, they love drama. They used to love this type of stuff. In fact, you know, they kind of had a tent pitched there, and it was, you know, we would make excuses on why we weren't at different part, you know, success in their life and whatnot. Government's fault, environmental factors, you know, blah, 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 right? And one thing that I realised over my time was, as I got more into this, was that staying in that environment was not going to serve me. So I physically had to, at a moment in my life, go, I love you, but I've got to get out of this part of the environment. I've got to get up and I physically left town and went to a different environment, and I went and found myself a bunch of people that play in the Northern Hemisphere. So just be okay on this principle as you do this one and you implement it into business or you implement it into life, that it can have an effect that not everybody's going to come on the journey with you, right? So it can be that you might have some drop off of other people when you really hone in on this one. But I can promise you that if you do this well and really play the Northern Hemisphere game, it will accelerate the outcome in business, it'll accelerate your outcome in life and everything all the way along. And this is instead of being a victim, we go and be a victor. That's the completion of the flip chart. So, folks, big one. Now, there is one last thing that I missed that I want to say to you is in the golfing analogy, we can't always see ourselves swing. There's this thing that says, I can't see myself swing in golf, right? So the same thing with this is, I can't always see my own behaviors. So I might be doing this and not even knowing I'm doing it, right? Even though I'm aware of the flip chart. So one of my requests to you, and this is a request that I make of everybody that I deal with, is if I go south of the equator, I need you to tell me, right? And the way that we do it is I want you to say to me, are you south of the equator right now, Wade? What world are you living in right now, Wade? I need you to ask me the question. Don't tell me I'm there. I need you to ask me the question so that I can stop and get aware of it, right? And if you're serious about wanting to play that game, you're going to make the same request of your coach and the same request of me and other people around, that when you do go here, you're going to ask them to hold you to account to make sure that they help you identify it. Because if we can't see it, we can't correct it. All right, folks, what world do you live in? Huge, huge principle. Put it up on your wall, introduce it to your children, teach it to your friends. One of the greatest ways to implement this is to teach it to somebody else. It'll change their world. Big one. Hope you enjoy it. Go live it.